Hello and welcome back to Severe MMA. My name is Ian O'Neill, and today I have the double pleasure actually, of having Ryan and Adam Shelley on, the Shelley brothers who fight out Team KF. Lads, how are you keeping? Thanks for taking the time to join me there today.
Yeah, good, Ian. Thanks for having us on. Obviously, we're big fans of the show, so it's really cool to be on here, you know.
And how are
Cheers
you,
to have us on, Ian. Yeah.
Yeah, thank. Obviously, yeah, it was delighted to see you guys getting a great end to the year, getting signed up with Cage Warriors. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But since it's his first time on with us, lads, just wanted to talk a little bit about maybe your entry into combat sports. I know that you've had an extensive Taekwondo background before you moved over to the mixed martial arts. What did you start enter into combat sports as fighting in your family, or how did you kind of enter into the Taekwondo world before MMA?
No, so how we got started in that, Ian, was there's myself, Ryan, and we have an older brother as well, Alex. So just three lads in the house. We're always just, acting the maggot, like play fighting, that type of stuff. So my dad just thought it'd be a good shout to throw us into something. And there was just a local Taekwondo club. It was in the Alsa Sports Centre. It wasn't too far from where we were living out in Swords at the time. So just brought us up there. We enjoyed it at the time, stayed at that, and then just the career progressed from there. That was sort of it. And it just developed. And as we got older, we sort of started pushing in towards national team in the Taekwondo, and the love just started to grow and grow, and we wanted different types of martial arts and different types of fighting. And as you can imagine, in today's age now, all roads just lead to MMA. So that's what happened to us.
It was pretty much a no-brainer, Ryan, to make that move over to MMA. But I'm curious, was it a help to have the three brothers? You're there, you can train in the gym obviously together, you can do a bit of training at home. How much of an advantage would you say that was, Ryan? I guess it worked from the Taekwondo world, and it's the same thing coming into MMA now as well.
Big time. That was a brilliant help, because we found obviously we'd do our training, let's say in the evenings, and then we'd come back, and then what was happening was in the house, obviously we were bouncing things off each other as well. We were practically doing our own sessions in the house, between the three of us. And it wasn't even a case of we just wanted to train. It was just because we loved it so much. So we were saying, bloody blah, talking about situations to do with sparring and stuff like that. So I suppose the sort of culture grew in the house for fighting, where we all loved it. And that just, I think as a whole, that just pushed the three of us on together,
Nice, yeah. And Adam, I'm just wondering, how important was having that Taekwondo base before you both made the decision to move over to mixed martial arts?
Very important, Dean. I suppose number one, from without even looking too deep into the style of Taekwondo, just the competing of it itself. We would have had over 200 or 250 fights in Taekwondo, over what would have been a 15-year period, nearly more maybe. Because that tournament style of competing, we'd be having 5, 6 bouts in one day. So not only the stylistically, but just getting used to competition, preparing for competition, dealing with losses, dealing with wins, that was hugely beneficial. So we're very experienced in that side of things. And then if you look into the style of it, it's quite uncommon in MMA. It's actually becoming more prevalent now. You sort of your Wonder Boys, MVPs, and then even we'd be watching the UFC undercard one night, and you see a guy coming out with a very, if you want to call it, cradier Taekwondo style. So it is becoming more prevalent, and it seems to be some people can make it work, some people can't. That's where then our coach Chris comes into play and helps us adapt it, to the MMA, getting used to when we first started, adapting to the low kicks, takedowns, smaller gloves, clinch, and then bringing all that into our game as well.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely want to touch on your move to Team KF, but I'm just wondering, when did the conversation first happen with you lads about maybe making the move over? Were you fans of mixed martial arts, or were you watching the UFC and wanted to give it a go? Maybe I'll ask you that, Ryan. When was the first time that maybe the conversation came up?
Adam was more of a fan of MMA. Adam used to watch GSP and stuff like that, and he used to show me when I was younger. And we've been watching it a good while. And then obviously we followed the likes of McGregor's rise and things like that, and the whole wave of Irish MMA. And then it was about 2016 or 17. We were competing still in taekwondo and kickboxing, and we had both expressed interest. We were talking and we were saying, if we're ever going to do it, it's going to be now. And our older brother Alex happened to be a friend of Cathal Pendred, and Cathal recommended Swords because he obviously he knew Chris, so he said, like, if the lads want to go anywhere, it's close to them. Chris is a brilliant coach, so he recommended to go out there. So yeah, it was around mid 2017 where we finally made the choice. Right, let's jump. And then I went first because Adam was actually busy with college at the moment, so I joined. And then about 2 or 3 months later, I'd been telling Adam about how good it was, and then he came down, did a class, and then he was like, "Oh, Jesus, this is brilliant." And then we both just took off from there.
Nice. Like, how much of a help was it for you guys? I know, like, you had your stand-up background and everything like that. Team KF, obviously brilliant in all fields, but really good jiu-jitsu down there, really good grappling. Was it a no-brainer, Adam, maybe for you guys to make the move to Team KF when you did finally make the decision to jump over to mixed martial arts?
Absolutely, yeah. I always say this, Pardine, because like with the taekwondo, and then we were involved in kickboxing, and I did a little bit of boxing and stuff. So we've been around sort of many clubs just in our lifetime. Just, you go to club for sparring, or you'd do a period in a particular club. So for me anyway, Ryan was the same. He had given me great feedback. As soon as I went to KF or SBG Swords at the time, I sort of knew that, this is a really good club, because like going into it, like I said, I only had Cahill's feedback to Alex to say that Chris was a good coach. Other than that, like I didn't really, like, I knew of Chris Fields, I knew of Owen Roddy, I knew of Andy Ryan, I knew of all these local MMA gyms, but to me, I didn't know that one was better than the other. Especially because SBG Swords at the time was relatively new as well. So it wasn't like they had pros bursting through the ranks. So it was only when I actually went to the gym for a few classes, saw how the place was run, the other members in the gym, everyone just on a good vibe, sort of wanting to train, no bullshit. So I just sort of went, you know what? This is good, like, this is, and you could and then obviously you could just tell Chris and Tom's technical knowledge in their given areas. So it was a no-brainer for us.
100%. And Ryan, I'm sure you echo those sentiments. Like, for you, what makes Team KF stand out from the rest, in your opinion?
Yeah, we get asked this one a lot, like, and to be honest with you, there's a few things. You can't just put it down to any one thing. Like, there's the work ethic of, Chris and Tom, the effort that they put into us. And then there's just the lads on the team. Like we always say, like, the crack that we have on the team is brilliant. We all gel very well together. And although it's an individual sport, there's very much the team aspect of there's just the team atmosphere out in Swords. And personally, I love that. I don't really like the thoughts of, going out and training by yourself. I love training with people, and, Swords is really, it captures the essence of that, like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I definitely agree with you there. Lads, you really, when you did make the cut, when you meant to jump over there in 2019, both of you really hit the ground running. Both of you, I think, fought 5 times in 2019. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll go to Adam first. As like the pandemic obviously hit then. Did it kind of hinder your plans maybe in the amateur ranks, or did it kind of co-align with your move over to the pro ranks anyway?
So for me, I had my last amateur fight in December 2019, and funny one there actually. So I was in a 5-round title fight in the UK, and going into the last round, Chris said to me, "If you stop," I can't remember if he said, "If you stop this guy or you win this fight." I can't remember. I think he said, "If you stop this guy," I can't remember. He was like, "You're a pro fighter." So I had actually damaged my eye in that fight, so I was sort of just like hanging on in the grappling, like, because I couldn't strike, I couldn't see out of my eye. So I was taking the guy down and controlling him to get through the fight. So that sort of just lit a fire under me, and I went out and stopped him within the minute then with ground and pound. So then after, he goes, "Right, keep your promise, like, you're going to pro now." So in the February then of 2020, I was matched to fight on, I think it was Olympus Fighting Championships. I think that's what it's called. Anthony Franklin in the UK had me on, and I was set to fight in the May for my pro debut. But then obviously COVID hit, and nothing then for the rest of the year in 2020. And I eventually got to make the pro debut in June 2021 then.
Yeah, nice. And yourself, Ryan, what was your experience with the pandemic? Did it kind of align with you moving over from the amateurs to the pro as well?
Yeah, so mine was a little bit different. So again, I fought on that night that Adam was talking about and won as well. And you know, my not that my amateur fights weren't good, but it's just Chris had said that he wanted to see me fight one more time as an amateur and sort of see how we go from there. And then so I was scheduled to fight in March, and obviously that got cancelled because of COVID. So, and then there was talk of maybe shows happening. So I was in this weird sort of limbo period where, like, if a good amateur fight came, I would have taken it. Or if an early pro fight came, I would have taken it. So it was just a bit weird with training. I didn't really know quite where I was. And then at the very end of the year, an amateur fight came up on Clan Wars, like a good one against Armand Herxig. So I took that and won it. And then after that, Chris was like, okay, like I'm happy for you to go pro now. And then when you look at 2021, similar story. The first half of the year was very slow. With some of the shows getting cancelled, which was a bit of a mad out period. But then when you look at the second half of the year, I ended up getting the 3 fights in the space of 6 or 7 months. So I was delighted with that. And just so coming into this year now, I just want to keep that consistency going all the way through.
100%. And like the two of you lads, you fought a couple of times on the same night, maybe 4 or 5 times maybe. Yeah. How I go to Adam first. Like, how was that experience for you fighting on the same night as your brother? Does it kind of affect you in some ways if things don't go well, and or what way is it for you? Like,
it does a little bit, Ian. Now I think for me, Ryan is quite adaptable in sort of everything he does, whether he's before me, after me, 10 fights before me, 1 fight before me. Just in general, Ryan's quite adaptable. I do like to have things in a set out way on fight night, or whether when it was competitions, I like it a certain way. So I personally not a major fan of Ryan fighting before me, because to me, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm the older brother. Like, you know, of course I want him to do well. He wants me to do well too. But so yeah, it's a bit of a funny one. It's happened a couple of times and I've still won, and then it's happened sometimes where I've lost. So like, I don't blame it in any way at all. Like, I definitely wouldn't blame it on a win or a loss. Now for Cage Conflict, just gone the way we had it was, I fought first, and I actually much rathered it. It suited me anyway. Like, you know, I just went out, I performed, got the win, thankfully. And then it was like, right, I can kick back now and enjoy Ryan's fight. Now, it didn't last long, but I still got to, you know, I was standing in the crowd with all their mates and I got to watch it, you know, whereas before, like, if I'm on in 2 fights and he's fighting, I'm nearly sending people out here. How's he doing out there? How's he doing? And I think he got to experience a little bit of that in Cage Conflict as well. He knows how I feel now. But the truth of it is, Ian, going forward, please God, with Cage Warriors, I've spoken to Chris about this and Ryan. It's just something for me anyway. I just have to get over it, and I feel like I'm in a good place to do it now, because it's going to suit us better to be on the same shows, and the Figlac boys do it, the Hardwick lads do it, so we'll do it as well, and we'll push on to the top. Not a bother.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Ryan. I mean, what was the experience like for you? And then I was going to ask you, like what Adam said there, does it kind of works for you guys to be fighting on the same night and doing your camps together as well?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So it was funny for that Cage Conflict show as well. So that was the first time that Adam had fought before me. So it was a similar story, you know, like, to be honest with you, I didn't really mind it. But yeah, so it was Adam fought, and then there was 1 fight in between, then me. So it was fairly tight together. But I kept saying to Leon Hill in our gym, like, he was warming me up out the back, and I'd say, go in and check, you know, what's happening there. And he'd come out and he'd say, he won the first round, he won the second round. And then he was like, he's after winning. And then I just sort of went, like, I can breathe now, you know, I can sort of relax, like, you know, even though I still had to go out and do my own fight, because it's just, I do find I get a bit more nervous for his than I do for my own. I don't get that bad. But yeah, it's just, again, it's something that we're going to do now going forward. For all the shows, we'll probably be on the same card, which is fine. The the week leading up to the fight is always it's a bit more busy because, you know, we're both dropping weight and things like that. So the tensions can be a little bit higher in the house, you know, when you have two people cutting weight, which isn't good. My mum sort of feels that, like, you know, but at least it's a little bit better now because Adam's after moving out last week. So I suppose we're going to be in different houses doing it from now on. So it's all good.
Yeah. Poor Mrs. Shelley, I know. I can only imagine two lads cutting weight. It's probably it's terrible. But let's talk about Adam. You know, you jumped in there against Kenny Mulcahy in your first fight. You know, that's a top prospect for you to go in there and fight. You know, obviously it didn't go your way, but you know, things went your way against Daniel Scaglese in Cage Conflict 5. I mean, for you, what did you take out of that first fight, and what did you bring into the second fight with Danielle? Obviously, it was a really good win that you picked up there, and to go 1-on-1.
Yeah, a good portion of it, Ian, was just a little bit of mental stuff, like, you know, just, you know, dealing with pressure and stuff like that. I think because the pro debut got sort of pushed on for so long, I had built it up a lot in my head. Like, you know, like I said, I was supposed to do it in May 2020, and I didn't get to do it until June 2021. So, and similar to Ryan's situation, what he was saying earlier on about amateur fights, with the whole COVID thing in 2020, you know, you'd be chatting maybe and nobody knew what was going on. So we go, we're after hearing there could be a show in September. And we'd be like, right, it could be on that. And then September would come and go and you wouldn't have been on it. And then it'd be like, here, there's a Cage Warriors in December. You never know if there's a pullout, you could get on that. So you're preparing for that. And then that comes and goes. And I actually then had a bad break to my ankle in November 2020. So then that was like, oh, Jesus, when am I going to get to finally do this? And I got back as soon as I could, and I wanted to get back in there straight away. So there's just a load of pressure and stuff built. So I just changed my sort of mental approach to the next fight, so I remember after the Kenny fight, and I was going, Jesus, whenever I decide to fight again, I thought there was going to be a lot of pressure on me because I had to win it essentially. But to be honest, I didn't feel much pressure at all until the last few days. But I was so focused on just performing to the way I know I can perform. And that's what I did. And I know now going into all my fights, and the lads who train with me will know, if I perform to the best of my ability, like, I know I can beat any lightweight in Europe easily, you know.
100%. And Ryan, you know, you've had a pretty good start to your career, 3-0 right now. Coming in there, getting 3 finishes in 3 fights is pretty impressive stuff. And 2 of those by submission too. You know, you got a beautiful submission against Lee Malloy the last time you were out with Cage Warriors, and you doubled down again on your last fight. I mean, might have been surprise to many, maybe looking from the outside in, but can't have been too much of a surprise from you. Obviously, with those 2 submission finishes, you've obviously been doing a lot of work on the mats and working on your grappling skills.
Big time. You know, we always say when you train in KF, you're forced to, because a lot of the lads in the gym are really good grapplers. So I suppose at the start, the way I looked at grappling was, I always thought of it, you know, once I get it good enough so that I can look after myself on the ground so I can strike. And then slowly, as the years went on, I was like fighting and stuff like that. And that slowly changed. I was like, I'm actually sort of getting it pretty good at this, you know. And I'm after finding a few little ways of my own. I'm not saying I have it figured out or anything like that, but there's a few positions where I know, like, if I get lads on the ground, if I get around to that back, I'm fairly solid in them positions. So yeah, and again, that's just what would happen was, like, you know, let's say we'd be training and I'd start doing things and Chris would be like, that's deadly that you're trying these things. You should play around with that too. And just being very open-minded. And, you know, I think we always say, like, when you're in MMA now, with the level that everyone's at, you can't just be a striker. You can't just be a grappler. You have to be the complete mixed martial artist. So that's what I'm working towards now.
Perfect. And Adam, maybe I'll ask you the same question. Like, how has your experience in integrating yourself into the grappling world, and when can we expect to see a few submission finishes from yourself?
Really good, Ian. Like that, I put myself in there as much as Ryan. Ryan's found his little niche on the back anyway there. And when myself, Ryan and Taka were coming through as amateurs, actually, we all had a bet that whoever the first one to get a sub, we had to throw them 50 quid. Now Ryan's still down 50 quid. He hasn't got a 50 quid off me or Taka. But don't worry, it's coming from myself and Taka as well, I'm sure. Whenever the opportunity presents itself, I'll be diving on something. Anyway, I have a few little things up my sleeve.
Big money at the stakes there, lads. So it is. And pay,
That's it.
if you're listening, Taki, you better pay that man. Pay that man.
Yeah. We said, look, we give him 25, maybe 50 a bit steep.
Yeah, well, he's got 2 now, so maybe you have to pay him 25 and 25.
I know.
Look, lads, obviously we talked about the 2 you picked up wins towards the end of last year, and the real cherry on the cake for both of you guys was the announcement that you both got signed up for Cage Warriors. And maybe we'll go to Ryan first. I mean, what does it mean to you, Ryan, to get the opportunity to go back and compete in Cage Warriors and really put in a run there?
Yeah, you know, that was huge for us, getting the signing with Cage Warriors at the end of the year, because, you know, for a long time when we were coming up in the amateur ranks, we were thinking, you know, we would like to eventually end up in Cage Warriors, because where we want to eventually end up is the UFC. So and we know that Cage Warriors is a great platform for, you know, competing against the best in Europe and finally making your way there. So yeah, it was a big one for us. You know, Adams was a little bit different. Like, so he got the win in December. When I won in September, there was sort of talk of me signing with them, you know. And then when I couldn't get on the Double Trouble card in December, I fought in Cage Conflict instead because I wanted to stay active. And then after that, Chris gave me the go-ahead that we were going to get signed. Well, Adams was a bit of a different story. I'll let him tell you about that. But yeah, we're looking forward to now in 2022.
You go ahead, Adam. I mean, tell us about what your experience was and what it means to you to get signed up with Cage Warriors.
Yeah, so Chris sort of pulled a fast one on me. So, like, when I won the fight in Cage Conflict, so straight away after the fight, I was sort of saying to Chris, you know, I heard there's one of them. I don't know what show it was. There was a show in January. I was like, I want to fight again straight away in January. And he was like, you know, just relax for a minute. Like, you know, you're only out of the cage. Like, you know, we'll talk about it when you're home, when we're back, and, you know, something will come up and blah, 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 blah. So I was again saying to Ryan, I was like, I want to go straight away. I want to now push my run on. Like, I want to get in there again. So that was the Saturday night. We hadn't been down to the gym. We went down the Wednesday for a positional session. Like that, we don't really take much time off after a win. We sort of just got straight in just for a bit of training. So Chris, he always does this after a fight or a tournament, a jiu-jitsu tournament, whatever. He called a load of us onto the mat just before we started. And he congratulated one of the lads, Barrow. He had won medals at a jiu-jitsu competition. And then he congratulated Ryan on his win and said that it activated his Cage Warriors contract that most people sort of knew was coming. Then he congratulated me on my win and said that Adam doesn't know this, but that also gets him a contract with Cage Warriors. And everyone was clapping on. I for a second I thought he was messing, like, and then I was like, hang on, why would he mess with something like that? That's not funny, like, you know. And I was sort of like to him, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, you know, that's it, it's done and all. So that was a big deal for me. I was delighted, like, you know, really happy, because like I actually competed with Cage Warriors as an amateur twice on their Liverpool card in February 2019, and then their London card when James Webb won the belt in March in 2019 as well. So I got to see the setup. I got to be in on the meetings with Graham Boylan. I got to see all the pro fighters competing. And like, that was only my second and third amateur fight. And I remember being like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to do my pro career. And I want to be like this soon. Obviously, the pandemic pushed it on a little bit and delayed it. But I'm just delighted now that I'm there, I'm signed. And that's going to be me and Ryan now in the next couple of weeks or months.
Nice. How you're jumping into the lightweight division, Adam? How do you see yourself matching up with some of the lads that are in there already?
Yeah, really good. So, like, again, anytime there's a Cage Warriors card on, I'm always glued to it, because, like, you know, standard is great, the lads are great, and particularly the lightweight division. I don't know who's really there now at the moment. Debuting guys, there's, like, you know, I'm sure this will happen eventually. Myself and Marcus Lewis, we fought as amateurs. I won one, he won one. So I'm sure that's a potential fight there at some stage whenever both of us are ready and, you know, good to go. And then there's other lads floating around there that I'd love to get in and compete with. And then even looking to the top end of it, you had obviously Joe McColgan there as the title holder, and the two lads, Hardwick and Ben Lackdar, were supposed to fight for the title. There's some cracking talent there, and I just want to get in and mix it up with them because I've no doubt I'm well able.
100%. Same with you, Ryan. I mean, you're going into a pretty talented featherweight division in Cage Warriors as well. Like, how do you see yourself matching up with a lot of the talent in that division?
Yeah, similar story. You know, we watch all the Cage Warriors events closely because, you know, we're looking at, you know, different divisions, future opponents, things like that. I think the fight for March is very interesting between Paul Hughes and Jordan Vucenic, you know, the rematch. So that's the top of the division that I'll be looking towards, and it's a brilliant standard, to be honest. Personally, I see Paul winning that one. You know, I think both the lads are really, really solid, but yeah, I think Paul's gonna get it, and it'll be interesting to see where I start, you know, stacking up in that division later on in this year. You know, obviously I'm starting at the bottom, but I'm gonna make my way up to the top soon. So looking forward 100%.
To it. Has there been any talks, Ryan, about maybe potential matchups or when we might see you make your debut in Cage Warriors, or not your debut, excuse me, your return to Cage Warriors?
So yeah, we're probably looking at maybe sometime in April. I know I imagine the March show is probably filled up at this point. So yeah, maybe something in April. We'll keep the head down and training and be ready. No talk of opponents yet, but you know, we're usually game for whatever. So bring it all on.
100%. And I assume that's kind of the same situation for yourself as well, Adam. Yeah.
Similar story, Ian. Yeah. Now, in saying that, if we didn't get matched up on the London show, if there was any pullouts, I'm sure we'd be both ready to jump in if they lined up well in our weight division and stuff like that. But I suppose then what would happen is whenever Cage Warriors decide to run their next show after London, I'd imagine we'll both be on that. So looking forward to it.
100%. Well, lads, I won't keep you any longer. I really appreciate the time that you took this morning to talk to me. Adam, if you wanted to go first, just let people know where they can find you on social media. You throw out your social media handles and stuff like that.
Yeah, so on Instagram, mine is just at Adam Shelley TKD, and on Facebook, I'm just Adam Shelley. I don't put much up on Facebook. Don't lash a load of stuff up on Instagram either, but I'm there anyway. There's some little training videos I've had up in the past if anybody fancies a go with them. We're not on Twitter yet. I need to set up a Twitter, but we will soon anyway.
All the MMA degenerates, including myself, are over on Twitter now. You gotta
yeah. I heard that's where all the juicy stuff happens, Ian. So we must get over to Twitter.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Ryan, yourself, where can people find you on social media, Ryan?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Ryan Shelley 96, and my Facebook is Ryan Shelley, just normally. Similar, I haven't got a Twitter. I must get on that. The last time I was over in Cage Warriors, they were like, write down your Instagram and Twitter there, and I was like, oh, I don't have Twitter. And your man looked at me as if I had 10 heads. So he was like, get that fixed for the next show. So I must get on it very soon. So
lovely job. Well, thanks so much again, lads. You know, two top talents. Head over there and give the lads a follow on Instagram. And when they do get their Twitter set up, give them a follow there. Like, top talent deserves to be in a promotion like Cage Warriors. And I'm delighted for the both of you that you got signed up and you'll be in there representing Ireland. And once again, lads, I want to say thank you for taking the time to speak with me again. And I'm looking forward to talking to you down the line. Maybe we'll have you both on, maybe singularly, when you both get your fights announced eventually at Cage Warriors. So thanks again, lads, and all the best.
Ian, thanks very much for having us on. And just before we finish off, we could just say quick shout out to all the lads and coaches in Team KF. They know who they are. Wouldn't be anywhere without them. Sponsors, Top 10 Martial Arts and Complex Sportswear. They're only sponsors. So just, as always, just give them a quick shout out as well. Thanks.
Any other shout outs for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I have the same sponsor. So yeah, you up the lads.
All right, fair play to you, lads. Thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, go over there and follow the lads, and we'll talk to you all the next time.
Nice one, Ian.